So it will be on our YouTube channel for the public to view. So if you do not want to be seen, just X out your camera and we'll see whatever it is you have as holding your place, but we won't see your beautiful face and the world won't see it out there. And Holly will do her presentation. If I'm going to do what I can on my end, I'm going to spotlight her so that she will be big and should take over your screen. And I will go away. If you're not seeing her the way you want, so that you can see up close, in the top right-hand corner of Holly's picture, you should see 3 dots. And if you click on those, it'll give you an opportunity to pin her and she will become big on your end. And with that, unless we have any questions, I will turn it over to Holly.
Hi, everybody. It's great to see you. It's been a long time. I do invite questions, so feel free to filter them through chat. But unlike a convention where I have tables upon tables with everything spread out, I have to sort of pick and choose what I'm going to present. But I'm in my office with my inventory, and I have my faithful companion here, Jerry, wave, who can jump up and get anything. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen and showing you my webpage. A lot of you have already been there, but we have a lot of people attending today, so I'm going to walk people through it so they're familiar with how to use it. First, I'll say that it is an informational page. It is not a basket page. I find that in my business, there is a huge weight on questions. People want to know what thread, how does it compare to another thread? What's the difference between a 2 and a 3-ply thread? And so I like people to call me and ask me questions regarding those things so I can get you into just the right thing and steer you away from purchasing the wrong thing. So this is my homepage, and
SciverBobbinLace.com.
Yes, you can access my homepage just by typing in SciverBobbinLace.com. If you can't remember that, try to get through Van Sky, then I should come up on any search engine. This year, I've been trying to spotlight our various teachers. And so just this week, I put up Martina's book, Lace Threads in DD. And on the homepage, I usually post the newest things that are available. So this page changes frequently. One thing that I'm featuring in our new Zoom world, our virtual world, is any book or tool or thread that you want to see before purchasing. Just request a Zoom meeting from me. We'll agree on a time. I'll send you a link and you can look at anything that I stock as I'm going to show you going forward. There's no charge for that, so don't hesitate to do it. I'm all by myself here in my office, except for my faithful assistant, and I look forward to talking to people. The other thing that I'm promoting these days is mini lessons, 30 for $30. So often in a workshop, you get all excited, you go home, and a week later, you get to a point on your project where you can't remember what to do. These lessons are designed to get people over that bump and on with their lace making. I had one just on Friday and it was tremendously successful. The student said, I could have made 5 of these projects. I've taken it in and out so much. And in 30 minutes, we were able to solve the problem very efficiently. So keep that in mind. Down here, I feature some things and some general information. I also have at the top of every page, these various headings. So if you want to see books, just click on books. And the newest books will always be generally in the top tier. And I'm going to show you some of these books today. And although I don't have a search engine, you can try to find the book you're looking for through these headings. So if you're a fan of, or let's say you're new, or you're trying to get somebody started, if you go to Bobbin Lace Manuals and Skills #2, you can see what I think rates as a good book for beginning lace makers, or books that have specific fundamental bobbin lace skills. And I put them in this section here. Here's another one by Martina. I know she's in attendance. You can always go back to the top of the page and jump down to another section, and so forth. The easiest thing to do, though, is to call me and say, Holly, do you have? Something that I added to this year's, or to the webpage this year, is private sales. I'm having a growing collection of things that people, either estate sales or people who are downsizing and want me to sell. And this page can just be fun to look at, because there are things you can't generally get anymore. Things on this page tend to sell quickly. And if you just scroll down, is there any lag in the pictures? Anything good? You can see different things that come online. I had the good fortune of getting a lace collection this year, and that has sold extremely well. And although I'm not going to show them this session, I have some posters, various posters. So there's some unusual things, and the lace sale page is nice just to look at the laces. Anytime you want, you can go back to the top of the page and revisit these headings. I have continental bobbins under any bobbin that really isn't spangled. Take notice of the hooked bobbins. These bobbins are wonderful for wire or metallics, and it's a small eye hook. Little ones are a little hard to get. And I particularly like this hook on the Bansh bobbin, but I can make these for you in most of these styles. I have the square bobbins at the bottom, which are popular, and then the more traditional styles at the top. This section are videos and DVDs, and believe it or not, I still have, and I still occasionally sell, some of the Spring It videos in VHS format. So I keep that up there, but almost all of them are now DVD. And anybody who wants to try to get a beginner started, Torsion 1 and Torsion 2 with the Torsion Lace book makes a great combination if you don't have access to a lace group or a teacher, and you can work through beginning skills this way. It's also nice for a guild library, because you can work together as a group, or people can borrow it from your library. So all sorts of subjects are covered. And if anybody has any questions about those, let me know. Threads are always the focal point of any order. Holly, I'm doing such and such, I need such and such a thread. And lo and behold, because the book's 30 years old, that thread isn't in production anymore. I will be able to help you select the correct thread for that project, or tell you how you can size a pricking to accommodate the thread that you want to pick. And that's often often an easier way to do it. Use the thread you want to use, and then we'll size the pricking to suit that thread. When you can't do that, then I'll get you there via my thread comparison chart and my own almost 50 years of experience. I particularly like the Barton Franza Giza thread because they don't bleach it. And this thread goes up to a size 240. And it's remarkably strong for its size. The ecru is called a natural, and it's quite pale. So when you make it up, it doesn't scream tan or brown. And it's a thread well worth trying. Most of these threads, fil à chinois, Egyptian cotton, lucky them, they have the trade name, but they are all Egyptian cottons, long staple fibers. Notice that some are 2-ply and some are 3-ply. Do not ever confuse the fact that an 83 and an 82 are the same size. They're not. Nor is an 82 Egyptian cotton the same size as a DMC fil à dentelle or coordinate. Count numbers do not correlate amongst cotton manufacturers. They're better within the linen, but not so good in the cotton. So anyway, any questions you have about thread, I'm the one. I'll help you out. English Midland bobbins, there any bobbin that requires a spangle. You should not use these bobbins without spangles because the whole surface shank of the bobbin is on the pillow and will roll like a toothpick, even if your pillow is level. So these bobbins are sold spangled or unspangled. And then there's bunches of specialty bobbins. What I have in-house right now are hundreds of antique bobbins and used bobbins. They're not on the webpage. I look for requests. I'll get them up on the private sales page slowly, but you can also request Holly I'm looking for, and I'll look through the massive bobbins. Pillows. I am very lucky to be able to sell these traditional Belgium straw pack pillows. Once you've used one, you never go back. They are, I'm going to go to a new share. And I will show you what these pillows look like. So now the lighting makes the color a little odd, but they're dark navy blue. And I'll back up a bit. It's quite a dark and firm, but not so hard that you can't get a pin through. These pillows come with a small hole in the back so that they can sit on top of a stand made by the same company. Now this stand is adjustable up and down by loosening these screws, and you can shorten the stand to this stop so it goes quite low, or you can raise it up quite high. It's suitable for any height. They changed the stand so it has 4 legs, used to be 3, and it's very stable. One of the things I like about it is that you can put your feet on the base of the stand so that it gets the tension off the back of your legs. The other thing I like about it is when you take the pillow I put my finger where the hole
Okay.
is.
Somebody said-
Is there a question? And it sits on top of the post and it's quite firm. And I can turn this pillow 360 degrees without its losing its center. It's also wonderful when I'm teaching with somebody who has this set up because I don't get tangled up in their stand and have to lift the whole stand and the pillow. All I have to do is this. Although it does have the tilt on it, and it tilts quite a bit. You only want to use that tilt when you want to balance bobbins that are near the edge so that your work remains level. And I'll show you how to do that in my fundamentals class tomorrow. Okay, so that's a wonderful setup. This is a 20-inch pillow. There's also a 24-inch pillow. It's quite a large pillow. And the stand is excellent for that because you can get your legs. Let's make sure everybody can see me. You can get your legs clear under the pillow so that you're not bending at the back. I unfortunately do not have the block pillow to show you today from the same company because they've been very popular and I'm sold out. But I will be getting more with those in shortly. So, was there a question? Okay. So we'll go back to the catalog, since it's a good way to walk through. Okay. Our block pillows and the roller pillow are temporarily unavailable because Ken's a little under the weather, but we hope we'll have him back soon and have those available again. Here is the large octagonal block pillow. I'll zoom in so that you can see more how this works. It has 9 blocks, really 10 because the center 2 blocks are split. And you can move these to any portion of the pillow. This wedge system, so these are 2 pieces of wood, one here and one which slides against it. And they press the blocks together so that the crack in the middle is diminished to the point it doesn't make any difference that it's there. It's really handy. This pillow also comes with a hole in the base and sits on top of that stand. So that's pillows. Pattern materials, this is where you'll find your contact paper. We stock it now in blue and orange. Obviously, if you're doing creative work with blue threads, you don't want the blue contact paper, but the orange is quite nice. What makes this paper different from your shelf paper is that it's low tack. It's not so gummy or sticky, and it appears opaque on the roll, but when you peel it away and put it over a pricking, it is transparent. So you can mount your pricking without having to transfer your lines. The cork boards are great. They're just the right density for pricking. And of course, all your needles are on this page. Patterns, various designers. Antique scarves, of course, have been very popular. Make these with the Freysha 15-3 yarn. And it takes 2 skeins of the yarn to make one 5-foot long scarf. So if we go back to silk, there it is. And note, every time I order these threads, the dye lots are different. So if you're ordering for a scarf, make sure you let me know the number of skeins you want, and I'll make sure they're in the same dye lot, even if we have to reorder. Um, this company reorganized. This is an American company. Their frames are not cheap, but they're absolutely beautiful. And if you have a special piece of lace, consider those as a vehicle to present. Very nice for necklaces. There we go. These make wonderful earrings or necklaces. This is pretty on a bobbin. I promise you, I'm going to rephotograph these so you can see them a little bit better. The earrings are always popular. Lamps and magnifiers, always a nice item. This has 5 holes around the base, so you can pin it to your pillow. It has a booster lens here, and you can just pull it over anything that you want to see and swivel it away. I tend to use that with 1 pin in the base so that I can swivel it back and forth out of place, move it around a little easier. The linen testers that I stock are the best quality. You can very easily buy a very, very inexpensive plastic lens for linen tester, but these lenses are beautiful. And I know Susie Johnson uses that a lot to look at her width off. She opens it up flat and takes it right down to the lace, and that helps her make it. Whoops, my mouse is very sensitive. I leave tatting to the experts, but I do stock a few shuttles. If anybody, usually at a show, somebody will pick up some of those. But Lace 8's a great program if you're into designing your own and so forth. So let's go back. Now that you know how to negotiate my website, here is the order form. You can place your order by email. If you call me, I take all the information for you. It's very, very easy, and you can ask me all your questions, and we can get a lot done on the phone. If you order by email, I will send you a copy of the invoice and ask you to confirm the address and the details of the order so that you're getting what you think you want. So you can either call me, email me, or post. I still get orders from the post. The workshop teaching schedule obviously is not up to date. I think I'll print this and frame it as a bad memory of COVID. But let's now go and look at some books. So we're going to swing the camera back. I'm using a system where I use an application called Camo, and it allows me to do all sorts of things with the phone without having to touch it other than just swivel it. So I wanted to feature some books of some of our convention teachers. And this is Jean Leader's new Bedfordshire book. And I was very, very lucky to get this before the official introduction, which isn't until September in the US. It's a really nice syllabus of how to make Bedfordshire lace and nicely laid out, and it represents a lifetime of work. Her introduction, the equipment that you need, materials. And what's interesting is she goes from basics all the way through to your intermediate level edgings. I'm turning several pages at a time now. You can see we're on page 69. If you're calling to see a book, here. if you're calling to see a book,
Call from 1-856-8-13418-9185.
so I'm able to zoom in. You can actually see. You can really see anything that you want very, very clearly. I love this page because on one page, you reference all the different ways to make blossom filling, which is a filling that's shared by both Bedfordshire and Honiton. So now I'm going through several pages at once. Those are the butterflies, but she gets all the way into oops, fix that. Some of the Leicester or floral type Bedfordshire patterns. It's quite a nice book. If you're taking Martina, and some of the people in the class are taking her Invisibles class, and this is her book. It's absolutely wonderful. $69.95, but included is a DVD disc that must be played in the computer, not in a DVD player. And this book gives you page after page of options for invisible starts and finishes. And it's just a wealth. You know, in my fundamentals class, one of the questions that people are going to ask, well, how do I start and finish? Well, there's an easy answer and not an easy answer in this book. And Ulrika Volkler's book, The Beginning of the End, is another good example. But look how nicely this Milanese scroll is begun and ended without any visible connections. Really nice. So that's certainly a book. Now, Martina has told me that this is out of print. I have only 3 copies left. There's been quite a run on that. Another one of her books, Threads for Lace, Lace Threads in DD. And this is where she assigns a thread with the DD number. If you go, I always like coordinate special because everybody knows what that is. If you take a coordinate special 80, the DD number is 25. You go to the back of the book, you look for 25, and you'll see all the equivalents. It's really, really handy. So certainly one to consider. That one's $29.95. And then here's her bobbin made jewelry book. Love the cover on this because it looks 3-dimensional. It actually seems to jump up off the page. And this book is in German and English. She talks about threads. Again, a wealth of information. Anybody interested in metallic jewelry would love this. We stock number 5 and number 4 gold gilt. One's gold and one's gilt passing thread. And that works nicely for these patterns. That would be under threads metallics, but let me get back to some of the projects. I never get tired of looking. Okay. And this book is 107 pages. And it's $54.95. So Martina, thank you for all those lovely, lovely books. One of our new books for I know we're not having a Banch class, but I know there's quite a bit of interest in Banch. And this is the newest by Kamiko Nakasaki. And one of the things I like about this current compilation is that many of the projects are just a little bit smaller so that you can, like the bird, they're doable. You know, you don't have to wind 400 bottles. And there's several patterns like that in the book, in addition to some of the intermediate with edgings. But you can never go wrong with Kamiko. Here's some of the projects on the back, including these 3 fans and some of these little old patterns. Here's a nice page. And speaking of Banch, Mika Toyota has promised me she's coming out with a new book this year. So that's something to watch as we go into the fall. If you're taking Louise Colgan's class in Milanese, this is a big book. It's a large format book, and it is spectacular if you're into Milanese and you're to the point where you need instructions on how to do a plait or you want to begin to design. And this is what I like about this book. You have the instructions for doing the straight Milanese edge, but then also the diagram for how to do a 90-degree curve turn and how to do a curve. It's all right there with your instructions in German and English. And it's just page after page after page and of Milanese tapes. And when I say page after page, I mean 240 pages. I'm stocking all of these books by Barbara Corbet. This is great if you want to learn Flanders. In this book, every pattern has a bobbin in it. Some of the bobbins stand alone. And this is a great book. It's been quite popular, and I've just sold my last copy, but that's another nice one. You know, there's a lot of Ulrika fans in the house, and she's put out a nice new book, Baroque Ombre 2, a floral torchon lace. And this is set up. It's nice to have a photographer in your life, isn't it? But as usual, meticulously laid out, wonderful section on the Baroque Ombre grounds. And that's Mr. Likely. You all get phone calls from Mr. Likely, spam likely. So very, very pretty designs in this book. And it has, these are all the different patterns. It's 103 pages, high quality paperback for $48.50, I think. Price. I know we have a lace identification class. And this is my current favorite, Antique Lace Identifying Types and Techniques by Heather Toomer. And she lays this particular book out by groups of laces, bobbin laces, needle lace, embroideries, but then she does it regionally, which is kind of nice. Hardback with colored pictures, and let me find a page. I like that she puts the grounds in. So you can see the detail of the ground, how it's made, how you can identify many times by virtue of the ground what the lace is. Now there's plenty to trip you up on that, but this book helps you get there. It's a hardback, and it is 248 pages. Real high quality paper. And that's where I would start with lace identification. Of course, we have a DVD on lace identification with Carol Williamson. And in the estate sale, I happen to have a copy of Pat Earnshaw's Dictionary of Lace. And this was, I think, her second book. Jerry and I had the pleasure of being in Tiverton for the publication of her first book. When Shire Publications came down and threw a party. And it's a party I'll never forget. But then this, I think it was the small black identification book. This book is just loaded with information. So if you have some idea of the type of lace you're looking at, you know, there's pictures, but you can then reference this book for more information on that particular lace. I don't think I have a copy in stock right now, but Patricia Wardell's Victorian Lace is also a good source of information. It's an out-of-print book, but I use that a lot in my personal identification. I know we have a needle lace class. This book, A Practical Guide to Needle Lace by Jacqueline Peter. It has been in print for years in French, and they published it this year or probably last year in English. And if you're beginning needle lace, this is a great book. And the point of view, the description's a little different from what we're typically used to hearing, but you get from A to B the same. And I quite like this book. I have the Lace Guild Intro and Intermediate. And I think this is just great that we have this in English now. And on it goes. 126 pages. But also now in English are the Italian needle lace books. Corso Basso 1, 2, and 3. And these, I think some people overlook them because they think they're Italian, but now they're all in English. And you can't go wrong with these. I think they're very, very good. Step by step by step, building the coordinate until you get on to the fillings and so forth. So these books, if you're beginning in needle lace, should be worked in order of 1, 2, 3, because they're progressive. Anybody wants to see these in more detail can call me. Bobby Donnelly's not teaching this year. She has a new grandbaby in her life. But this is her latest books, Tallies and Print Change. It has been out for a little bit, but if you haven't had the opportunity to look at this book or to work from it, this book, unlike many of her earlier books, has technique in it. And for those of us who aren't lucky enough to having the Scovic Turner Lace book, this is a long-awaited bit of information. So those starting Turner Lace have some reference for the technique and just not diagrammed patterns.
Holly, question?
Yes.
With regard to the previous one, the 3 books on the Italian needle lace courses,
Yes.
I have the books in Italian, but now they've come with it in English. So are they
Yes.
doing any kind of a supplement for those who already bought the Italian one?
No, they don't.
Okay.
They don't. For years and years, that's what was available. And then they contacted me one day and said, we have these in English. And I had a bunch of Italian copies left, and they took them back, but after they saw the postage, I think they regretted it. But anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
There's a lot of just fun books. If you're new to lace and you want to have a lot of fun, this 24 Hearts and Bobbin Lace is cute. It's easy. You work them flat, you fold them, and you can create all these different hearts. And in the same vein, you can do the Danish hearts. And this book, all these hearts are made with Bachan's 35-2. But I believe it was with a 40% reduction. I'd have to rethink that. It was a while ago since I did that. You can work these in 62 Bachan's, and they're pretty spectacular in terms of their design, because you start on the straight, you go around through the curve, you have your 90-degree turn, and then finish up over here. So they're fun to make. You learn a lot. They don't take forever. And each one is fully diagrammed. And Louise West is at convention, and this is her Bucks Point Lace workbook. It's a syllabus. When the patterns are worked progressively, you work from beginner into intermediate. And what she has very cleverly done in this book has provided a page where you can pin your lace and take notes on that particular lace. And as a teacher of Bucks Point myself, I looked at this and I thought that it was well laid out with the patterns working progressively to more difficult ones. And I'll jump over to the back so you can see what layer. This is a spiral format, which is nice because it lays flat, makes it very nice for exhibitions like this. So anybody taking Bucks Point? This is nice. It uses, I think, a 63. Okay. Now, I need to look at chat to see if, how do I get there? If anybody has any questions. One of the things I wanted to show you was that if you want to see a thread with this particular setup, I can lay threads out. This one happens to be a Freesia 102. But then I can take a Fil Chinois 72. I have the fan on. Go to my telephoto and then zoom in so you can see the thread that you think you want. Very clearly. If you're into Christine Marecki's outfit patterns, you know, her scarves, her vest. I have 2 new things coming from her. I may show that on Thursday. I think that's my second session. But if you're doing a pattern like this, or Sabrina, for example, which is quite popular, this is the thread that she uses, and usually 3 assorted colors. Very popular thread as an accent and torchon as a gimp is the Twillies, or excuse me, that shows my age. They changed the name of the company to Gold Rush. It used to be called Twillies. And what's nice about this thread, it's very supple. It's about the weight of a number 5 pearl cotton, but it bends easily, it conforms, and it does make a pretty spectacular gimp for torchon patterns if you want a little sparkle. Anybody, lots of times people will call me up and say, I need this color matched, or I want to do a combination of, I can show you colors. And they are very accurate representations of what those colors are. This is the Gutermann metallic, which comes in a lot of nice colors. This is the size thread that Louise uses in her Milanese classes. That and the Madeira metallics. So when you get your supply list from her, these are the Astro colors. This is a purple, and I also have a tray with all of the golds. Gutermann has the same Astro colors. So there's your options in golds. So when you're selecting threads for her class and using the Gutermann 103 spun silk, and she asked for a pair of number 40 Astro 3, 4, whatever. This is what the size weight thread that she's talking about. So let's see. If I take this, it's a very thin metallic. Okay. So I think with the few minutes we have left, does anybody want to see a particular book or item? I can't, let's see. If you want to see something, unmute and shout. Okay.
Hi, Holly. This is Priscilla.
Hi.
Hi, I was wondering what thread is needed for the Corso base lessons.
Good question.
Thank you.
See if we can figure out. Is Carolyn Wetzel here?
Yes, I am.
Do you know offhand?
I usually have students use the 50 or the
Yeah.
60.
Yes, here it is.
Oh yeah, sure enough. Yep. And then you just need a regular sewing thread, although the glacé hand quilting thread is really good for the, that's what they use, those women who wrote the books, that's what they use in Italy. Oh yeah, see Coats Glacé number 40. You can't, I don't know that you can buy that in the US, but you can use the.
What about the Gutermann glazed quilting thread?
That's what I'm using, but it looks like it says right there that they think the Gutermann 40 splits more easily, but I haven't found that to be a problem. I do have a spool of their thread they gave me when I was there, and it is really nice. I have to say, I wish we could get it here, but I mean, prior to that, I was just using sewing cotton without a problem.
So here they're saying DMC coordinate 50 or 60, or 80 or 100. Cutwork thread is the skeined brode. I don't know how you would use that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Hi, Holly.
yes,
I was interested in looking again at the Bucks Point Lace Workbook by Louise West.
okay. Here it is. Yes.
I watched a lot of her YouTube videos. She very much has a lot of them.
And anything in particular?
Go to closer to the end to see some of the more detailed pieces and patterns.
So this is page 73. That's
Okay.
page 77.
Mhm. Yeah, that's pretty.
Notice round Thomas Lester inspired motif.
Mhm.
With Bucks Point, you need to understand there's geometric and there's floral. And the difference is that every pinhole on geometric Bucks Point is mathematically determined. In other words, there's mathematics underneath it. You don't need to know it to make it, but they're precisely positioned.
Mhm. Right.
When
Because you don't close any of those pins when you're doing Bucks Point.
only the ground. So
Only the ground. Okay.
the ground pins are not closed,
Right.
but
Okay.
honeycomb pins are closed.
Okay.
And what's become quite popular, is that it? Well, to my eye, this thread's just a little heavy.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
people choose a heavier thread for the purposes of publication, but I probably would have used an Egyptian cotton 82 or even 102 on that. But the difference between floral, and let's go back to a pricking here, floral and geometric, is that when you begin to get these soft shapes and these curves,
Mhm.
if you look at the ground,
Yeah.
bear with me, the ground is a hexagon.
Right.
Excuse me. It's a
It's a-
parallelogram. You see
Uh-huh,
that?
yeah,
And this angle and this angle are the same, and this angle and this angle are the same.
mm-hmm,
Because of that, your turns are very rigid,
oh,
okay? So when you get into florals, it's a different beast. You have to know all of your fundamental skills, point ground, honeycomb ground, picots, how to do a tally, etc. But they're applied, the picture or the curved flower here, imagine that being set on top of the ground. And the trick
Okay.
is to marry these edges.
right.
You have to trick
your
the
gimp.
mind. Now, if
Right.
I were teaching this, I would take this row of ground and I would do a row of stitches from here to here without pins,
Mm-hmm,
so that your eye follows that straight down. Even if I had to add and take out pairs, that's the way I would do that. Because you want to trick the eye to thinking this ground is going underneath this flower, and it just marries beautifully. Now,
oh,
if you're into floral, then the book I would recommend is Alex Stillwell's Floral Bucks Point. You're going to get
yeah, that's pretty.
a lot of prose instruction in this book. Well, I'd recommend the workshop with me, but
Okay,
it's just, there's going to be more content here, more
Okay.
prose, more description, how to do edges and so forth.
uh-huh, I see.
And
Like
these are
tricks and
truly
teeth techniques.
bigger
Mhm.
florals, designing corners, and so forth. So if that's where you're headed, make sure your fundamentals are under your belt so that you don't have to think about them. And
Right.
then learn how to marry the design to the ground. And it's fun. It's like playing chess. It's really, really fun.
Oh, yeah, looks great.
Okay.
Thank
And
you. Yeah,
she's
and what's
also
the
put out
title
a,
of Alex's book? Okay, Floral Bucks Point. Okay.
so there's Geometrical Bucks Point. That was her first. Then the Floral Bucks was second. And you'll see in the geometric that you have sort of squashed geometric shapes because it's never designed at 45 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Bucks Point is designed at anything other than 45 degrees, usually 50 to 70, and often between 52 and 65. If you have a pattern designed at 60 degrees, you can do a circle because 60 goes into 60, 360 6 times.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. And
That's great,
Of-
Holly. Thank you so much.
of course,
Yeah,
learning your
this is
point
really
ground
good.
skills lets you springboard into other laces in the point ground family like Chantilly or Turner
Yeah.
and so forth. Okay?
Great. Thank you so much.
Holly,
welcome.
could you go through some of the pictures in Jean's New Bedfordshire book? The cover has butterflies, but your description in the catalog talks about other designs.
Find it again.
Holly, while you're finding it, just to remind people that it's 2 o'clock. And if you have another event or something you were planning on going to, I can be on the call as long as Holly wants to share with you, but she also has another trunk show scheduled Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. So I know you might want to come back and see her then.
So I have some time for anybody who wants to stay. So this book is laid out so that we work progressively, you like Louise's, and you'll see that this is a simple pattern to start with. But as you go forward, the degree of difficulty, now that was Anne, right? Anne Reeves,
Right.
who asked me that.
Right.
You're pretty advanced.
Well, I love her butterfly designs, but she also mentioned collars
Okay,
and
let's go to
handkerchief
the
edgings.
collars. Yeah. This is an interesting page because Bucks and Beds were married at a certain place, and I can hear Pamela Nottingham's voice in my ear. Holly, recall that bastard lace. So this is a good example of a Honiton filling in a Leicester-esque design. I love Beds because it's the melting pot of all laces in the
Here's a
19th century. There's a picture of a collar, but I don't see the pricking. It's a little contemporary one. These are traditional. There's thousands of patterns in the county museums in England. There's a collar.
Ooh.
That's quite a nice one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I recall when I went to England a couple decades ago, I went to the Aylesbury Museum, and they had 4 or 5 8-foot, maybe 3 8-foot tables set up with me with note binders on each one, maybe 2 or 3 on each one. And I spent the day going through them. And I was allowed to tag any of the ones I wanted. And so the collars are quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
And they made copies and sent them to me in London. And they're beyond difficult.
Yeah.
I think it takes you well into Leicester type patterns. That one is so familiar. I think the Luton Museum might have published that years ago, or it's been published in another book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think
anyway, I think you would like that section of this book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else?
Holly, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
I can.
Oh, excellent. Yay. I had Michael set this all up for me so I could do this. Quick question for you. I'm in your class. It's the one in August. Is there any particular book or whatever you would like us to have for the class to get ready for?
I will be sending you an email
Okay.
with your instructions and supply list, the supply list you had. I'm having a little bit of difficulty because I'm running out of DMC coordinate. So I may resize that pricking so we can use 40 or 60. So
Okay.
that's, but no particular book. We'll talk about that then.
Okay.
It's such an eclectic bit of information. Your head will be spinning, so.
Okay. I'm taking a class because I had a stroke, so I'm trying to remember everything.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point of this class is I can't remember anything. I'm a great fan in deductive reasoning. So it's to try to teach you how to read a pricking and work lace intuitively.
Great.
Not so that you'll have more confidence, because what is in your mind is almost always right.
Okay.
So I'm going to help you get organized.
Great. Thank you, Holly.
You're
Hi,
welcome.
Jerry, too.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Holly,
Nice to
this is
meet you.
Gail. I wanted to know, in Ulrica's book called Still Blüten, about
Yes.
the polychrome flowers, is there much information about technique, or is it primarily patterns?
It's primarily patterns. For technique, you need her grammar of point ground.
Okay, I have that.
But it's basically set up as a pattern book. These
Mhm.
are all the different patterns that are in it. And then when you select one, well, there is some technique there, but the grammar of point ground, yeah, there is. I think in combination, the technique you'll need for this book with a good point ground foundation under your belt will get you through those areas.
Okay.
Patterns are set up like this with a picture. Let me get one that's colored. But then she does her diagram and then the pricking.
Yeah. Okay.
And these technical. But she doesn't provide a lot of prose description on where to start, where to, a lot of.
Yeah. So it's definitely not a beginner's book, but.
No, but it all depends on how much point ground you've had.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you've not had her as a teacher, you have to be able to wrap your arms around the way she thinks about things.
No, I've not had that opportunity, but.
But you have the Grammar of Point Ground, study that. That's a terrific, terrific book for anybody doing point ground laces. I'm gonna pull that down. I absolutely hate. I have no patience for following other people's diagrams. It's like putting a Lego toy together. If you want the fire station, you have to follow the diagram together. I'm a great believer, and that's not to mean if I were to design a pattern, I'd have to provide some diagrams to get people through it. But you want to learn your basics so that you can manipulate whatever you read in somebody else's work. If you can make it look better, do it. You have to have confidence to know, she says do it this way, but wow, if I did this, how can you beat that? But this is the Grammar of Point Ground, anybody doing Buck's Point. Now, Ulrika comes to her point ground from the Shanti point of view. And you see that bias. But nevertheless, just one of my favorite pages in this book is this, because you'll notice that the grid is absolutely the same throughout. The cross and three twists does not change in size from the top to the bottom. What she's showing here is the GIMP. And in this lace, you would call them folds. And rather than use a single thread like a DMC Pearl Cut number 8, you fold a silk floss or a different silk, she used a lot of silk, to create different thicknesses of GIMP. So that the top one is 4 ply, the next one is 6, the next one is 8, 10, 12, and 14. And the lesson is that they'll work on that grid, but you have a bolder or less bold effect.
Yes.
Now, one rule of thumb is that when you have a lot of cloth stitch in the motif, if the motif jumps off the page, a lot of people go with a finer GIMP. But if the GIMP is creating the design, you might go with something in the middle. And then down here, these would be used for artistic things, but all sorts of really cool tips like that in here. Even your weavers, you can pack up your weavers with more threads or put more pinholes in between rows to give you a denser cloth stitch than you might otherwise have. You wouldn't necessarily guess that. So I think this is quite a nice book, and I think her beginning of the end is quite a nice book.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions? So on Thursday, I'm going to be showing some blueprints from a Parisian design house where they did blueprints for machine-made lace using handmade lace as their inspiration. I'll be showing some of the laces in the collection for sale. Different patterns and anything anybody else asked me about. So any other questions?
Holly,
Yeah,
do you have a time that you would like to take phone calls for orders, or just anytime we get ready?
if you'd like to place orders, give me a call.
Okay,
Or you can also do it by email. And if I have any questions, I'll call you.
okay.
Give your phone.
My phone number is 607-277-0498. And I operate out of my homes, so I'm most easily reached between 9 and 5 Eastern Standard Time. And, but if I'm home, I will pick up the phone. This is a great book that came out in Flanders a couple of years ago.
Thank you.
And it's exactly as the title suggests. It's a big coffee table book, lots of pictures, and it gets into some of the contemporary stuff. Didn't focus much on that today, but this is certainly a direction we're all headed. But it's still nice to bring some fundamental skills to it. Okay. And another book I didn't have for a while, if you're into tape-based laces, some of these countries, the shipping is breathtaking, just breathtaking. And I didn't have this for a while because I sold out, and you have to get enough interest to be able to buy enough copies to make the shipping worthwhile. But if any of you have done I.O.L.I lace, this is another Spanish lace called I even took Spanish in high school, I.O.L.I de Candida. I call it Candida. By Martina Margario. And it's another tape-based lace. So if you're into Milanese, this is a traditional lace from Spain. I always like the books that document the technique of a traditional lace. I think that's very important. You know, we've got this now. The I.O.L.I, the library should have this, because we don't want to lose these. We don't want them to disappear. This one is in English, and it's kind of fun. So. Okay. So, Belinda, are you still there?
I am, Holly.
So do we have any more questions?
I'm not seeing any in the chat room, but
Okay. Well, why don't we then see you all again on Thursday? And if you have any questions for Thursday and want to email me, I'm taking a list, checking it twice. And
Back to you.
oh, to me, I stopped share. Jerry said, flip back to you.
that was a wonderful presentation, Holly. We all just miss being able to see you up close and personal. So thank you for sharing all the goodies that you had.
Well, thank you for having me.
And we will welcome you all back to our next event. So have a good one.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Holly.
Thank you.